Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. Just a minute. I hope that you're well wherever you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us on time. I see we are now at 26 participants. So I think we might need to give the rest a bit more time to join us, maybe say 3 more minutes so that we start at around 3 or 5, yeah, my time, depending on where you're joining us from. So my name is Lucy Machocho. I'm the Technical Programs Assistant here at African Pharmaceutical Network. And I'd like to officially welcome you to today's session. So hang tight for us to start. In the meantime, please feel free to let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. You can let us know who you are, what you do, and where you're joining us from, which part of the world, which part of Africa. We would be very happy to connect with you even after this session. All right, so we are now at 3 or 4, and I think we can get started. Those who are yet to join us can find us along the way. So thank you again for joining on time. For those who just joined, my name is Lucy Machocho, Technical Programs Assistant here at African Pharmaceutical Network, and I'd like to welcome you to the session where we'll be demystifying the African Union financial rules and regulations and the implications it has on member states and the governance of African Medicines Agency. So before we get into the session, I'd like to take you through some housekeeping rules that we'll use throughout the entirety of the session. And one is, as you've noticed, your cameras and microphones are muted. That is to avoid any disruptions during the session. However, you'll have time at the end of the session to raise your hand and ask any questions that you may have or seek clarity where you need clarity. Additionally, if you have any burning questions that may arise during the session, because the Q&A session will come at the tail end of the session, but if in the midst of the presentation you have any burning questions, feel free to use the Q&A or the chat to raise it. And I think with that, for those that have also just joined us, Please feel free to use the chat to let us know who you are, what you do, and where you're joining us from. We'd love to get to know you and network even after this. So before we get into the session today, I'd quickly want to take us through what we do as an organization, that is African Pharmaceutical Network. I know you've been seeing a lot of our name out on the internet, especially LinkedIn, for those of you on LinkedIn. And you've been seeing a lot of posters circulating, and you're wondering, who are these people? So I would want to just quickly take us through what we do. Just a minute, I pull up my slides. So African Pharmaceutical Network, the organization was founded in 2020, and that is during the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that we had noticed was that the COVID-19 pandemic exposed a lot of weaknesses in Africa's pharmaceutical sector. And one was that there was a lot of inequity because we are among the last countries to get vaccines, for one. And this is because there was an over-reliance on importation with limited local manufacturing for the vaccines themselves, and also other health products that were used during the pandemic. Secondly, is that the supply chain was not as resilient, that there were disruptions in the supply chain, and so access to quality health products was a problem. Another problem that we noticed was that the stakeholders themselves that are working within the African pharmaceutical sector were not looking at the coordinating their efforts to addressing the challenges that were brought about by the pandemic. So that means that the interventions were not as did not have the maximum yield that it could have. And so looking at the African pharmaceutical sector, we understand that we're also operating within a regulated environment, given that the lives of our patients are at stake. So that means that we have some regulations to follow, and we need to ensure that these regulations are actually enabling a thriving business ecosystem and enabling the innovations that come, that are also developed by the professionals working, or the professionals and the businesses working within the pharmaceutical sector. So we decided to create one common platform that brings together all these stakeholders to share knowledge, one, and shape policies. As I've mentioned, that policies need to ensure that it's not just protecting the patient, but enabling the business themselves to thrive and the innovations within the industry to thrive as well. And these innovations need to be nurtured. And why are we nurturing them is to ensure that we have a robust pharmaceutical sector that can guarantee reliable access to safe, quality, and efficacious medicines to the African population. As I had mentioned, that you noted there was limited local manufacturing. Up to now, most of our countries are relying on importation of up to 70 to 90%. And even for those that can manufacture a significant percentage of their pharmaceuticals or health products, like South Africa, that can manufacture up to 60 or 70%, they are still importing up to 98% of their active pharmaceutical ingredient. So can we have a system, a pharmaceutical sector where we are manufacturing all the way from the API to the finished pharmaceutical product? I also mentioned about segregation in the way the operations of the continent were happening during that time, that people in the regulatory space are only looking at how the effort can mitigate the challenge. Those in, say, supply chain are looking at their contribution without looking at how can I, as a supply chain expert, hold hands with someone in regulatory to see how we can collectively address the burden. And then there was also lack of a common platform to drive the industry-led agenda. And we have several agendas in play, like building the local manufacturing system through the local manufacturing plan for Africa, the African Medicines Agency, which we'll be discussing today, and building or rather strengthening our public health systems. And for us to achieve or rather realize all these goals, we need to ensure that we have a platform that allows collaborative and innovative strategies from the professionals working on this particular space, because it is through the professionals themselves that we can attain the goals. It is through them that they'll be able to put together their actions for us to achieve the agenda that we have in place. And how we aim at doing this is by fostering continental knowledge sharing and workforce development. You can only stimulate innovations if the professionals, or rather the players in the system, are aware of what's happening around them, the challenges that they are facing, and the challenges that they are facing is what can enable them to come up with solutions to address the challenges. Promoting best practices and innovative models of practice. We need to break from the mold, because things have been working. For us to envision a different future, we need to break from the mold and look at how things can work differently. We also need to champion for responsive market-driven policies that actually reflect the realities and needs of the market, and also policies that can stimulate investments in the pharmaceutical sector, not actually deter investors from it. Some of our priorities based on the work that we do are three. There's pharmaceutical workforce development, business ecosystem support, and policy shaping. How we achieve this is through industry discussion forums such as this. Like today, we'll be talking about AMRH and the challenges that some of the countries have been facing in ratifying the treaty. Training and experiential learning. So through our Pharmacy Academy, which we are founded in 2023, we currently have courses running within the pharmaceutical science space, because we noted, according to the local manufacturing plan, that there's a skills gap in pharmaceutical sciences, that is regulatory, supply chain. So then how can we bridge this skills gap to ensure that the professionals that are working towards the agenda that I've talked about are actually ready and fit for the purpose itself? Policy shaping and policy advocacy and environment shaping, and also market intelligence and technical support to our stakeholders. In our team, we have an advisory board of 3 members. That is McDonald Nose, Christina Sai, and John Polomolo, who serves as the board chair. In the secretariat, we have 3, myself, Ms. Juliet Uma, and there's one that's missing here, Thomas Ogola, who's our IT and media intern. In the leadership team, we are in the able hand of Dr. David Odhiambo, Kennedy Odongo, Esther Anyango, Danish Kineni, who's our lead for the PB training, and Dr. Anushi Patel, who's our lead for the RA training, regulatory affairs training. Some of our partners the partners that we've been able to work with since inception include FIP, IFPMA, an African Pharmaceutical Forum, Empower Swiss, Bloom Health, and H3D Foundation. Our geographical footprint. So we have presence in about 25 countries. And although we are headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, the representation means that we can be able to execute on projects in these particular countries through the support that we have on the ground, from the ground, by the people in these particular countries. In our offering, in the pharmaceutical workforce development pillar, that is now through the Pharmacy Academy, as I had mentioned. So our aim is to ensure that the professionals working within the pharmaceutical sector are fit for purpose to drive the continental agenda, because they hold the transformative power that we need to ensure that we achieve the vision that we have. And so in the trainings, we have 3 trainings. We have the regulatory affairs training, pharmacovigilance and patient safety, and the pharmaceutical supply chain management. We also curate and host workshops and industry discussion forums. And for corporate organizations that are actually interested in upskilling their employees, we offer corporate training services as well based on their needs. So as I had mentioned, in the Pharmacy Academy, we currently have 3 courses running. And our courses are aimed at equipping the professionals with the foundational principles in the particular fields So that is regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance and patient safety, and pharmaceutical supply chain management, and also equip them with the skills to execute on the functions that are related to each of the fields, and exposing them to career opportunities that is now through our partners that reach out to us for talent. So what is next for you? You can become a member, and my colleague Juliet will be sharing a membership link that you can use to join. You can partner with us on the project, and you can learn with us as well, depending on your interests in the particular spaces that we train on. You can get to learn with us. We actually have enrollments going on for our 2025 intake. The courses will be taking off as from January, the last week of January. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. So I will also quickly introduce the speaker before we start. Just 1 minute, please. So Anthony, sorry about that. Anthony is a legal officer at the African Union Development Agency, new partnership. New African Union Development Agency, the new partnership for Africa. So I think I'll just hand it over to him quickly. I'm having a slight challenge with my laptop. Sorry about that. Anthony, over to you. Hello? Oh, okay.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Good afternoon, everyone. For the African Union Development Agency, new partnership for Africa's development. So we're calling it AUDA-NEPAD. I would like first to congratulate you guys from the African Pharmaceutical Network for the initiative. You know, the regulatory space is growing and it's becoming a bit complex with AMA coming. Now we have kind of 3 layers of activities at the national level. We have the NRAs, at the RECs, some initiatives, RECs, regional economic communities, and now AMA coming. Also, the AMRH initiative, which is the African Medicine Harmonization initiative under the African Union Development Agency, is still there. So I think many countries wanted to understand the work that is done at the continental level, understand the new regulatory ecosystem, and also understand exactly what's happening with AMA. So I know we are sharing some of the missions. We are advocating to become parties to the AMA Treaty. We've been also facing the same challenges, you know, discussing with country representatives. Some of them will tell you we don't understand the financial implications of for the African medicine agencies. So we've been supporting at the AU level, just doing the in-country intervention, developing some technical notes for this approach, a kind of a common approach. It's organizing such an event where we can explain exactly what are the financial implications, AMRH treaty, of the AMRH treaty as an instrument, but also the AMRH as an institution that came into force 2 years back. So let me share some slides that I prepared for you so that we can follow up. Lucy, can you just confirm if you can see my slide?
Yes, we can. Could you kindly put it on slideshow?
All right, thank you so much. Okay, here is the structure of my presentation. It's actually discussions, and I would love to have more kind of interactions. So I have like 40 minutes, but I might use a little bit less so that I give time to those who are here so that we can discuss and have more clarity when it's come to financial rules. But before explaining the financial rules of AMRH, I'll give you an overview of the AMRH itself. AMRH as an institution, like the African Medicine Agency, that's already in place. What the legal status of the AMRH, what are the organs, and the financial rules. So, because you cannot understand the financial rules of AMRH if you don't understand what AMRH is. So I'll go through, some articles, running through the 41 articles of the AMRH Treaty, explaining exactly the legal nature of AMRH, where it sits within the African Union system, and what's the organs, the main organs, their responsibilities. And after that, I will now come to the applicable financial resources of AMRH. And the most important also issue is on the contributions of state parties. State parties, those are the countries that have signed, ratified the AMRH Treaty, not only ratified, but also deposited the instruments at the Commission. I'll explain later because so far we have 28 officially who are parties to the AMRH Treaty, but in practice, we already have 30 countries that have signed and ratified, but the instrument is still the instrument has not been deposited at the Office of Legal Counsel in Addis Ababa. So they are not counted as AMRH parties yet. So a quick overview, just to understand what the African Medicines Agency is. So this is a treaty-based organ. Within the AU system, we have some organs that are created or established not using a treaty, not going through the process of the development of a treaty, meaning that the AU member state must sign and ratify. This is, the example of the AUDA-NEPAD or the Africa CDC. Those are the organs of the African Union, but they've been established through a decision. The head of state will meet and make a decision saying that we are creating an African Development Agency. And all 55 member states of the African Union will be members or will be served by those organs. But the AMRH was created based on the treaty, so meaning that only state parties will be, let's say, members of the African Medicine Agency. So this is a specialized agency. What is the specialized agencies? When I was working at maybe I didn't mention that I was at the Office of the Legal Counsel some years back, 2019, we tried to define a specialized agency because there is no statutory definition of a specialized agency. So we came up with some of the elements that will define a specialized agency. So first of all, it's an independent body established by the member state of the African Union, outside the managerial and budgetary rules of the rules and regulations of the African Union or of the Commission. So the Commission is the Secretariat of the African Union. It's an organ, but it's the Secretariat, and it's headed by the chairperson of the African Union, who's the legal representative of the African Union. African Union meaning all the organs, including specialized institutions, not specialized agency. So one of the elements is that it's an independent body, and the other element is that it's outside the rules and regulations of the African Union. And it created to accomplish a specific function. And for AMRH, the specific function here is to support countries when it comes to the regulation of medical products. Medical products being vaccines, medicines, blood and blood products, medical devices, so all the medical products. And the AMRH is actually giving the definition of what we need to understand by medical products. So saying that it outside the managerial rules of the organizations, it means that the AMRH as an institution would not be included in the overall budget of the African Union. AMRH will have its own budget. AMRH is supposed to have its own financial rules. That's why I was very interested in explaining the current rules or financial rules of AMRH, because AMRH is in place. So what are the applicable rules? So having defined what is AMRH and given the elements that actually constitute every specialized agency, so I'll move to the objective of the AMRH. But before that, I wanted just to share the fact that AMRH is not the first specialized agency of the African Union. We have some other specialized agency. We have the one specialized in civil aviation, whose headquarters in Dakar. We have the one also that is based in Johannesburg, like us. When I'm saying us, it's AUDA-NEPAD, not AMRH. The AFCON. So we have some of the specialized agencies, the one in charge of statistics, it's I think in Côte d'Ivoire. So we have quite a numbers of specialized agencies, but the specificity with AMRH is that it's created and it will be run by the member states of the African Union. So meaning that clearly the AMRH would not be hosted by any other agency. Unlike the one in charge of civil aviation, AFCON, it was hosted by the International Civil Aviation Organization for many years. So meaning that sometimes the financial rules that were applicable were the UN. Same with the other one that is based in South Africa, but I know the headquarters will move to Abidjan very soon. So it actually hosted by one of the UN agency, World Food Program. So meaning that since it was created, they are not using their own financial rules, but they are using the UN rules. So what the objectives of the AMRH as an institution? So I was saying that every specialized agency is created within the EU system to accomplish a specific mission. And for the AMRH, the mission is to enhance the capacity of member states and RECs. So I wanted to highlight regs, because these regional economic communities where the AMRH treaty are considered as regulators. So we can discuss this, but if you look at the treaty, you analyze Article 4, you will see that the regs are considered as regulators of medical products. So AMRH will come and will support them to improve their capacity when it's come to the regulation of medical products. So I've already indicated what medical products in this case will mean with medicine, vaccines, medical devices, including in vitro diagnosis, blood and blood products. This is the definition that we are taking from the AMRH Treaty. So AMRH will also have functions. We have, if you look at Article 6 of the treaty, AMRH will have 18 functions. So most of them are just about coordinating or promoting coordinations of GMP inspections, good manufacturing practices, coordinating the collection of information on medical products, including substandard and falsified medical products, promoting regulatory harmonization initiatives, promoting good manufacturing practices, but also giving advice. So I'll come back with the functions just to show you some of the functions of AMRH. So since we are talking about the financial rules, so you'll see that unlike maybe other organizations, in the AMRH Treaty, Article 5, is actually giving the guiding principles of the organization. One of them is transparency and accountability, meaning all the activities conducted under AMRH will be conducted in a transparent manner. And everyone will be working for AMRH Treaty or supporting the AMRH as an institution. If you can be a staff member, you can be a board member, so they are all accountable. They have to report to the organ, like the most kind of, in terms of the hierarchy, we have the Conference of State Parties, which is the most important organs, the plenary that are meaning that you are accountable vis-a-vis that Conference of State Parties that actually represent the African populations from countries that have ratified the AMRH Treaty. There is also another principles in terms of credibility. So meaning that the work that will be conducted by AMRH should be done based on like in respect of principles when it comes to regulation of medical products. And as you know, medicines, vaccines, those are critical, not like other commodities. So when dealing with such products, you need to be trusted. So it's a guiding principle for AMRH to operate in a very credible manner, but also to operate in respect of the confidentiality. So sometimes you might think that it's a bit contradictory when we're talking about transparency, but at the same time, they are promoting confidentiality. But AMRH will be dealing with one of the functions will be to evaluate medical products. So that functions, you see that they will evaluate not all the products, but specific molecules, so complex molecules. Some of the products are known. So when you're receiving dossiers from applicants, those pharmaceutical companies, you need also to make sure that the data is protected, you don't compromise the integrity of the data that are submitted. So established to operate and respect these guiding principles. So I've already highlighted the functions, and I'll come back just a little bit in the next slides to show you some of the functions of AMA. But in terms of the organs, because as I was saying, you cannot understand financial rules of AMA or financial provisions if you don't get to know the organs and what are the responsibilities of the organs of AMA. So we have 4 of them. Conference of State Parties, it is the first organ, the governing board, technical committees, and the secretariats. So I have explained what the Conference of State Parties will be. It's the plenary organ with 3 state party represented by the AMRH, the Minister of Health, and they will make all the decisions coming from the governing board. If you look at the treaty for the establishment of AMA, the first function of the Conference of State Party is to approve, not to establish or to determine the contributions of state parties. So this has a financial implication because every member or state party to the AMA treaty be contributing. And the Conference of State Parties is the organ. That responsibility lies with the Conference of State Parties to determine how much every country will be paying as a member to that treaty. But we also have the meeting at least once a year. It's comprised of 9 members, 5 of them coming from the 5 regions of the African Union, and 3 coming from the RECs. So we're saying that the RECs are important component of this. So they will be actually nominating or appointing out 2 plus 1, because 2 will be coming directly from the RECs and 1 will be coming from the regional health organizations. And you see that most of the health organizations are run by the RECs, the regional economic communities. And the last member of the board will be the Commissioner for Social Affairs. So this is an important organ. It's already in place, and yeah, it's in place. They've started working, though we don't have all the members. The northern region has not appointed the member yet, but they are working on that, and hopefully very soon they will submit the name of the members who will be representing that region. In terms of the technical committee, that's actually the organs. Those are the organs that will be doing technical work. So it can be in pharmacovigilance, on EMP, evaluation of medicines, can be the GMP. So those are the technical committees, and you see all these organs are you find them from Article 10 to 25 of the AMA Treaty. So the core work will be done by the Secretariat. When I'm saying the core, in terms of the everyday activity, financial activities, admin. So we have a Secretariat as that organ that will be running the activities of it is aided by the DG, the general, who's the chief executive officer of AMA. So you see that for the Conference of State Party to adopt or maybe determine the amount that will be paid by every state party, the first work will be conducted by the Secretariat. We'll be planning, developing the budget. And that budget will go to the governing boards. The board will look at it and on those, and the last adoption will be at the conference of state parties. So it's kind of a channel. So having said that, I was saying that I had a slide on the functions of the AMA, but as you can see, one of the most important functions, and for me, all the functions are equally important, or the 18, but the specific one will be on the evaluation of medical products for complex molecules. So these functions, I have been saying it in my capacity as legal counsel or legal officer of the AU, or maybe as an independent. I'm not talking on behalf of AUDA-NEPAD, but my own analysis on this point was that this is the only functions where AMA will make decisions that will be binding to the state parties. Other functions, AMA will provide advice on marketing authorization, will provide regulatory guidance, promote and coordinate. But when it comes to the assessment or evaluation of a complex molecule, the language in the treaty, the drafting style suggests that this will be a binding mechanism. So once the AMA makes that decision on the evaluation of products, if you do it kind of a thorough analysis of the treaty, that decision will be binding for state parties. So now let's get to the whole kind of debate, explanation of what we are here for. But we wanted to understand exactly the AMA structure, the AMA administration and institutional arrangements, who's doing what is AMA, what the nature of AMA. So we have Article 26 which provide for transitional measures when it's come to financial rules. We don't have financial rules for AMA yet, but it doesn't mean that when AMA will start activities, there will be no financial rules. So Article 26(4) is actually making reference to the AU financial rules and regulations. Those are the rules that were in place in 2014, but they've been just replaced recently. We have now the AU financial rules. We're no longer talking about AU FRA or AU financial rules and regulations. It's now just AU rules. So these rules will be applicable to the activities of AMA. So meaning that when it's come to the financial management of resources of AMA, these rules will be applicable. When it will be time for the Conference of State Party, with the support from the Secretariat, to determine how much every country should be paying as contribution for the activity of AMA, they will refer to the AU financial rules that's in place. So just quickly, the purpose of those rules, like the AU financial rules, just to set fundamental principles and the conditions for prudent financial management of the resources of the organs and institutions of the Union. So this scope and applicability is for the organs of the African Union and institutions. And I had explained that AMA was not or is not an organ of the AU. It's neither an institution of the AU, but it is a specialized agency of the African Union. As such, these rules would not, or they were not meant to be applicable to AMA, but they will apply to AMA because the treaty in the transitional measures is making reference to those rules, but they were not developed for institutions that are outside of the union. So if you look at the definition of the union, the African Union, it doesn't include specialized agency or agencies. But these agencies are part of the African Union system. They are still linked to the AU system. They will report every year to the Assembly of Head of State and they will, but they are not part of the overall budget of the AU. If they want to amend the treaty, since the treaty for the establishment of AMA was adopted by the AU, so they will have to go back to the AU organs, and the policy maker within the AU is the assembly. So AMA is a specialized agency. It's not within the union, but it's within the AU system. And the rules, the financial rules of the AU were developed for the organs and institutions within the AU, just to set those fundamental principles for and conditions for prudent financial management, but also, lay down the general principles for financial resources management, which shall govern the effective, efficient, and economic utilization of the resources of the union. The union here, again, organs and institutions. Still, these rules will be the one applicable to the AMA when AMA is fully in place. So now maybe just on the financial resources of AMA, and this is where some countries have been having some of the challenges. Some had concerns about the expenses, if AMA will be spending in kind of efficient, appropriate way, or if AMA had some financial rules. So, and more specifically, how much they will be paying when, like the membership fees, if we can, just discuss in a common language, membership fees. But I must say that so far, there is no contributions already determined because, as I said, the secretariat is not in place yet. There is an interim kind of arrangement already in Kigali, but we don't have the secretariat yet. And the work will start as the secretariat will go to the board, and then the Conference of State Party will adopt. So the first resource of AMA will come from the state parties' contributions. But that contribution is not known yet, is not determined yet. And the second one, but I'll come back just to explain, based on the current financial rules, what might be the case when it's come to the contributions, which scale of assessment AMA may use based on the that Article 26 that makes reference to the AU financial rules. So this is the first resource. The second one, AMA will be collecting fees for joint assessment and those continental inspections, the DMP inspections. As you know, when when applicants will be submitting the dossiers, AMA will be charging the fees to do that work. And for the assessment or the evaluations of the dossier, usually you have to go through the GMP inspections. So AMA will also be conducting the inspections. the same thing that we are doing now under the pilot at the continental level, under the AUDA-NEPAD of medical products. And we have a technical committee on GMP that supports that work on evaluation. But we don't charge because it's a pilot. But AMA will be charging the fee. And those fees will be actually resources for the AMA. But the third resource or source of revenue for AMA will be from the partners. Those are the development partners, grants that we receive from, can be individual or, donations from partners or development partners. So you can see Article 26, it's actually a recommendations. It's saying that AMA shall devise ways of resource mobilization. As for sustainability, you can't just rely on donors. So you need to self-sustain, just develop activities that will generate resources. And in this case, it will be the assessment of medical products, those complex molecules and the inspections, but also contribution from state parties. So Article 27, just for those who expressed concerns about how, resources from AMA will be utilized, I can say that everything is included. So the head of the secretariat, who's or the DG of AMA, will be in charge of leading the work on the development of a work plan, the budget, and everything, the expenses should actually be done in alignment with, the work plan that is adopted. And just to close this chapter, the finances and the accounts of the AMA will be audited by an independent auditor. So it's not like, in an empty space. No, there will be someone looking at what AMA will be doing, and the financial rules of the African Union currently will apply to the AMA activities. And just for you to note, or for us just to be aware of, as I was saying, the annual contribution for the AMA to be paid by state parties is not determined yet. And the reason behind is that the secretariat is not in place yet. So these responsibilities, and I've said that, is actually lies with the Conference of State Parties. This is the first function per the treaty. The Conference of State Parties will set the amount of annual contribution. And the second point to take note of is that AMA or some of the organs have already started the activities. The Conference of State Parties have met, the governing board, they've already started the activities, they've met, and they've been meeting place yet, but there is an interim kind of arrangement already in Kigali, looking at what's to be done when the GD will be in place. So the secretariat, as I was saying, will have the responsibility to prepare the budget, including proposal on annual contribution to be paid by state parties. This is under Article 23 2E of the AMA Treaty. And the headquarters, I've said it's in Kigali. And we believe that by February next year, we might have a DG in place that will be leading the activities of AMA. So this DG, per the financial rules of the AU, he will be also the accounting officer of AMA. Not only the legal representative, but he will also finances of AMA. I had prepared something just to understand, maybe for the state parties that are interested in ratifying the AMA treaty, and then they were wondering how much they might be paying. So I don't have that answer, but just to know within the AU system, we have a scale of assessment that was adopted in 2015. So that scale of assessment is guided some principles of solidarity, equitable payment, and the capacity to pay. So the key word here is the capacity to pay. So every member state is not charged. Okay, like they are required to pay based on what they are able to do. So you will see that we have the first group of countries whose GDP is above 4%. Those ones will be paying a certain amount, and those whose GDP is less than 4 but above 1 will also be paying a different amount, and those who are below 1 or from 1 and below, they will also paid a certain amount. And a lot of African countries, they are, in this group 3 and 2, and 1 you have the like of Egypt, who can, pay. But everything is based on the capacity to pay. And more likely, since Article 26 is making reference to the AU financial rules, and the AU financial rules provides that the contributions will be based on the scale of assessment. It means that not everyone will be paying the same way. So state parties pay based on the capacity to pay. So I wanted to say, maybe just to conclude, that we have rules, we have guiding principles in the treaty, we have rules of confidentiality, of conflict of interest, we have the AU financial rules that can easily govern, that will govern the activities of the AMA as an institution. So rules are there, and the activity will be conducted following or based on these rules. Second one, as I'm concluding, is that the annual contributions of state parties as of today is not determined yet. And more likely, we're going to apply the AU scale of assessment, not only because AMA is a specialized agency of the African Union, meaning that it within the AU, also because Article 26 is making references to the financial rules of AU. So those rules will be applicable to the activities of AMA, including the scale of assessment when it comes to the contribution for annual contributions. I had said it, AMA will have 3 main sources of revenues: the contributions from state parties, fees coming from its activities, and I'll come back to that. And the last one will be the donors' support or donations, everything coming from development partners. And maybe to close this chapter, the most important is that when the DG is in place, the first priority should be for him to have, yes, the staff, because you cannot run the secretariat if you don't have the staff, but also to have specific rules, financial rules for AMA, because AMA is not like other specialized agencies. AMA will be conducting many activities that will generate revenues. So it's important to have the rules in place that will reflect that specific nature of AMA as a specialized agency, but a revenue generating organizations within the AU system. So thank you so much for your attention. Happy to take any questions if there is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. That was quite insightful. really love how you were able to even give the presentation. Someone was saying the slides were not moving. How you've just mastered the entire organization and the framework of AMA. So I think I'll take some questions. I can see there's someone who said comments and also just a question on the chat. So I'll start with Joseph Tatwa. Hope I've said that right. Joseph, maybe you can raise your hand. Actually, I can just give you a chance to speak because I see you had a lot to talk about. If possible, I can just give you if you can have your hand raised so that I give you the chance to speak. Okay. So Joseph asks, is AMA a regulatory agency? If yes, will it undergo maturity level evaluation, and which legal instrument will govern the regulation? Won't this conflict with the national medicines regulatory authorities? The aspect of evaluating certain products would complicate or conflict the operations of AMA. He continues, or do you want to take that first? Anthony?
Yes. Thank you so much. I was also reading it. This is a very good question. Just for us to explain this the new ecosystem. I think I was saying during the presentation that we have now a new ecosystem in Africa, like regulatory ecosystem. We have at the country level, the AMRH, National Regulatory Authorities, and they will have the mandate to do everything in any case. And we will have at the REX level, some REX initiatives. And REX are now considered as, institution that will be regulating medical products. And AMA will be supporting countries and REX to regulate. And AMA will not be taking the work of NRAs, National Regulatory Authorities. AMA will be just dealing with some type of product for particular disease defined in conjunctions with Africa CDC. And you see the treaty is even talking about complex molecules. So what we're trying to say is just to do now is to maybe have a framework that will be clarifying at the REX level which type of products will be evaluated, and at the continental level, which type of product. But in any case, AMA is there to support countries and REX to regulate. AMA is not replacing. And if you look at the functions, that's why I wanted also to show you that slide on the function, some of the functions. You see, AMA would not be issuing marketing authorizations, but AMA will be providing advice on marketing authorizations of medical products. But AMA will be evaluating some of the products. Most of the activities of AMA, it's in terms of coordination and promotion. So where AMA will be doing, coordination of SF-related activities or activities to fight substance for medical products, collecting information, storing information, coordinating all the initiatives when it's come to the promotion of regulatory harmonizations, supporting countries to do their regulatory work. So I don't see it as a competition, and we've been also doing that just to explain to countries that there is no competition. The three levels are very clear. Everyone will be doing, and AMA will be there to support countries, not to take their job. I think I've expressed the consent, but please feel free if you have any other. It's Joseph. Yes, Joseph. Please feel free if you want to raise something else. I'll be happy to come back on this.
Thank you so much, Anthony. So I'll just move on to Janine. Thank you for explaining this complex situation and why the regulatory agencies are keen to sign the treaty, but this financial uncertainty may be why certain agencies have not signed or ratified the treaty yet. I understand there's been a lot of learning from the experiences of EMA. Do you know if the financial situation has the financial setup of AMA been considered also, or is that very different? Very confusing. I hope you're able to.
No, it's fine. I get the idea from Jenny. Yes, that's why what APN, the African Pharmaceutical Network, is doing is very important. We've been doing it in a different manner, like a different approach, like in-country intervention, developing a technical note, but that's very specific and targeted. I don't want to start saying we did it for X or Y countries. But doing this, explaining those rules, it might help some of the countries just to take decisions. Explaining what are the rules, financial rules that will be applicable, and how much countries might be paying. It's important. For now, we cannot say, but what is true and what is known is that AMA would also have other financial resources, particularly the fees indicated from the inspections and the evaluations of those complex molecules. So now looking at what is happening in Europe, so it's a bit different, though the two agencies are regional or continental agencies, but unlike AMA, the EMA is very much integrated into the EU system. So you see that some of the financial resources of EMA, they're coming from the EU itself. EU who has a part of contribute to the budget of the EMA. And now it will be different because EMA is now even giving money to the countries because of the way it organized. And when EMA evaluate the product, you send it to the commission, and when it's approved, it's kind of a sort of marketing authorization. But in the case of AMA, there will be no such arrangement of marketing authorization, meaning that every product that is evaluated at the continental level or at AMA will have to go at the country level to get a marketing authorization from the countries. But this is a bit a different construction. And the reason behind is that EU is an economic integration organization. It's like the ECOWAS, EAC. So they can take decisions at that level, and then the decision will have direct impact. Unlike the AU, AU is not an economic integration organization. Not yet. We're trying to get there, but there is no decision that will have immediate or direct implication adopted by the AU. And if you look, the relationship with AMA and the AU is only on reporting. So meaning that AMA they will do their activities, and at the end they will go and submit their report. That's it. And if they want to amend the treaty, they will start the process. The country can initiate, they will discuss, agree, and then submit it to the AU Assembly. So it's a bit different, but let's start. This is a new experience at the continental level. So we'll see what it will bring, but I'm very optimistic, and it's a different setup, and I believe that it will produce the results that we are expecting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I see, Kamal, you have your hand raised. You can unmute and ask.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My question is, and my fear is that in the three ways that you have set up for funding, one, state priority contributions, we need to look at it and see how state contributions have been in other areas. And then the last one is funding from partners. Now, I think we need to come up with a more regulatory program. Otherwise, the funding partners may want to drive the issues of AMA for their own benefit. So I think that requires a very stringent way to put into place.
Thank you, Kamal. Anthony,
Yeah.
you can address it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kamal. I get your concern. They are very legitimate. Maybe I didn't get clearly the first part of the question when you're asking what are the other area for the contributions. What do you mean? Other sectors or other AU agencies? Can you maybe just clarify just for me to understand what you mean by other areas? Please.
Okay, what I'm saying, other than the state contributions, you have fees from specific activities. Then you have funding from partners and other areas or other people. How do you regulate that? Because they could contribute with an aim of driving the points away from there. So we need to really have that regulatory system into place, because already how are you going to weigh in with the FDA and the WHO, the regulatory systems that are already there? And these are things that we need to actually look deeper into.
All right, no, that's clear. Okay, you were actually listing the sources of revenues. Yet I think we need to be careful. We need to be careful with what we are getting from the partners. But there will be a framework that will define what will be accepted. We have very stringent rules of conflict of interest. So every time that that's why we need a DG, a strong DG also, and who can guide determining what we can receive. And I can tell you, it's not because I'm working on the AU, we don't receive every funding coming from donors. And also the independence, the autonomy of the agency is actually reaffirmed in the text. And the AMRH DG, the Director General, it actually clearly defined that it should be an independent, should not take, instructions from, external instructions. This is the concept coming from the treaty. So, yeah, it's up to the leadership of AMRH to also see how they will be driving the activities, but we need to be careful so that those who will be funding the AMRH will not be the one making decisions or influencing what I'm doing. But we have clear rules even now on what you need to take, particularly if it's coming from the industry. You need to be careful, and also just to stick to your autonomy, independence. So those rules are there. Hopefully, we'll stick to the rules and we'll have a leadership that will lead this agenda without compromising the African agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I believe your question has been addressed. The other question that we have is, considering that AMRH has alternative revenue sources other than the contribution from the state parties, will there be a chance to have the state party contributions reducing over time with efficiencies in revenue generation and AMRH?
Is it in the chat?
No, it's on the Q&A section.
Okay. Just got it. But I can also see, if you allow, a question from Joseph on Zazibona on the chat. If AMRH would not conflict with Zazibona operations. Yeah, maybe if your authorization, just to indicate that there will be no conflict, because Zazibona will be at the REC or REX level, regional economic community. So the product that will be evaluated by Zazibona will have to be determined, and those at the continental level also will be defined. So that framework will be developed. And as I said, AMRH is there. The objective is to support the like of Zazibonas and the countries. So Zazibona is the SADC. So AMRH will be supporting that. And I don't see any conflict, particularly if we can take measures in defining clearly which type of products will go to AMRH, which one will be evaluated at the REX level. So about alternative measures or measure sources or then contributions. Yes. Okay, it will depend on the activities of AMRH. You know, the EMA also, they started like that. If we learn, it's not the same setup, but you see that they were getting a lot of money from AU member state through the commission, and they're still getting some of the money coming from that. But now, member states are receiving, countries in Europe, they are receiving money from EMA, the European Medicine Agency. So I do see happening, maybe, let's see how efficient, but I'm very optimistic, and I believe that once AMRH will be having a lot of activities, particularly evaluating those molecules and conducting inspections, they might, I think that will have impact on contributions from countries. That's why every year they will be assessing how much a state party should contribute. So if the expenses will be, based on the budget and the expenses, if they can be covered by fees generated by the activities, I don't see the point of charging member states again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't know if there's anyone else who has a question. Meanwhile, maybe I can ask, you had mentioned that for the specific period that you have, that AMRH is just drawing from the EU rules and regulation. However, there will be specific rules for AMRH as a specialized agency. So in the transition from the current frameworks that it goes from to the new ones for that are now specific to AMRH, what challenges and opportunities do you see in that transition?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. The challenges that I can see is that within the EU system, even the specialized agencies, I don't see a lot of them that are generating revenues the way I see it with AMRH coming. AMRH, I believe, will be generating resources. So applying rules that are applicable to institutions that are not generating revenues, that might be a problem. That's why I was saying that the priority number one yes, setting up this criteria, but I think must, or this criteria, the DG once is in place, it must work on those financial and also the fees. You know, one of the priorities that once AMA will be there, they will be evaluating the products. So how much they will be charging for the GMPs. So I believe that that will be one of the core kind of first activities that the DG will have to do if they don't need to face challenges. But the way I see it, those rules might not be adequate for like AMA, but other financial rules, it's a lot. It's management of resources. It's how you buy also, buy it more procurement, but how you manage. But it's not just the contributions part. So the AU financial rules will still relevant, but on the scale of assessment for the contribution, it can be tricky. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I saw Joseph you had your hand up. I don't know if you still intend to ask a question. If you do, I've allowed your mic. Please go on. Right. Maybe it was by mistake. So unless there are any other questions, I would like us to come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you. Okay. See one question popping up. I don't leave anyone out. So for governments with hesitancy in signing the treaty based on the financial rules, what would be your advice to them?
Okay, I don't see or I don't foresee any problem happening because AMA will be an international organization and particularly a specialized institution of AMA of the African Union, and on the on the contributions, they are known, the scale of assessment. Maybe the AU one where every member will be charged only based on its capacity to pay. So what I would recommend or maybe advise them is to actually ratify the AMA treaty because they will not be charged more than what they are able to pay. And in the situation of AMA, there is that options of AMA generating resources. So that will make it even easier for AMA to cover all the expenses without relying more on country contributions. So they should not hesitate. AMA is there for them. AMA is there to support. And I believe AMA will be generating resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I think that all the questions that we had. We also 6 minutes.
We're struggling to hear you. I don't know if it's only on my end.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm having a network challenge. Thank you so much for your participation. And I think with that, please, yes, David.
We can't, you're breaking, we can hear you. So thank you so much. You're breaking.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
It's
Go ahead. Now we can hear you.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, maybe let me turn
I
off
think
my
I needed to
camera.
reduce my bandwidth. Thanks so much. So I was just thanking everyone and wishing you all a lovely Friday, a lovely weekend. Please note that the slides and also the recording from the session will be shared immediately after this. And
Thank you.
maybe Anthony
Thank
can
you
give
so
us some
much.
final remarks.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I wanted just to give special thank you to you from the African Network, African Pharmaceutical Network. I also thank the participants who have taken time to join the discussion. They explained the rules are there in place, and the countries should not fear. That agency is for African countries. So far, we only have 28. We need those 27 to come on board. They should not be scared of financial rules. AMA is in place to support countries, not I don't know. It's there to support and improve access to medical products for the African population. Thanks again, and keep doing this great work that you're doing so that we can have more African countries becoming parties to the AMRH Treaty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I wish you all a lovely afternoon.
Thank you everyone for your contribution. We can still having a technical challenge with our network, but it's been a pleasure.